Hi everyone, welcome again to your channel. Thanks for the click. I hope you are doing well. So today, as you can see, we're gonna deal with another lesson, another topic, another issue related to teaching profession. These lessons are very important for novice teachers, for those who want to develop themselves professionally, and also for those who want to apply for teaching either in the private sector or public sector. So today, as you can see, we are going to deal with feedback, the teacher's feedback in the classroom. So when I say the teacher's feedback, which means the what we call the corrective. So here we are going to deal with the corrective feedback. And when I say the corrective feedback, which means the teacher's reaction, the teacher's feedback when students commit an error, okay? When a student commits an error, okay? So this is what we mean by the teacher's feedback in the classroom, or the corrective feedback. So corrective feedback is always related to errors, when students commit an error. Now, I'd like to take you to a word which is this. So if you are a practitioner and you see this word, a very common error will come to your mind. An error that has to do with the we can say the pronunciation. So most of students, especially beginners, pronounce this as knife. So they pronounce the k, which is incorrect, which is an error. So how can a teacher react to this error? How can a teacher correct this error in classroom? Here we have different kinds of feedback that a teacher can use in order to correct this error or any other kind of errors. Not only this is just a very simple example that we are going to refer to explain these examples. Okay, so let's start with number one, which is direct. Now, when I say direct, we can also call it a kind of explicit. Okay, so it can be direct or explicit, and when the teacher refers to the error directly. For example, here the teacher might say, no, we don't say knife, we say knife. So here the teacher is referring directly to the error, which is knife. We don't say knife, we say knife. So this is a kind of direct feedback. Now let's see number two, which is recast. So recast is the opposite of direct, which is indirect, or we can consider it as implicit. So if a student, for example, says, we use the knife too, so teacher might say, we use the knife too, so it is implicit. The teacher does not say, hey, we don't say knife, we say knife, it's incorrect. No. So the teacher corrects, the teacher gives feedback implicitly. So when I say recast, which is implicit, when the teacher corrects implicitly, when the teacher repeats what the student said with the correction. So that's what recast is all about. Number three, it's clarification check. And when I say clarification check, the teacher asks for clarification. And most of the time, the teacher might ask with words like, for example, with questions like sorry or excuse me. The teacher might say, excuse me, sorry, which means repeat. Okay, could you repeat, please? So here, when the teacher asks student to repeat or say sorry or say excuse me, and student repeat, the student might know that he made a mistake and he might correct himself. Okay, so that's what clarification check. So when the teacher asks for clarification in this way, sorry, excuse me, could you repeat? It is a way to tell student that he or she made an error. So that's what clarification check is, and student might correct himself or herself. So this is for clarification check. Okay, now number four is metalinguistics. So metalinguistics is when you make students think about the error. For example, you might say, do we say knife? So this is a question that will make students think about the error, and they might correct themselves. Okay, so this is what we mean by metalinguistics. So metalinguistics is when you make students think about it. And by the way, this is very important to use in writing, to give feedback to students in writing. I'd like you to think about it. How can we utilize this in giving feedback in writing? I'd like you to let me know in a comment. Think about it and let me know. How can we use this type of feedback in writing? Elicitation. So elicitation is when you elicit from a student. So for example, if a student pronounces this as knife, you say, how do we pronounce this? This is not correct. How do we pronounce this? So here you are going to elicit, and for sure one of the students will pronounce it correctly, or that student who committed the error might pronounce it correctly. So this is what we mean by eliciting. So you elicit. How do we pronounce this? How do we say that? Okay, so this is how we elicit from students. Repetition. Repetition is very important and it is very common. It's when you repeat the student error with a different intonation to make or to draw student attention. For example, if a student pronounces this as knife, you say knife. It can be funny and student might laugh, but it shows that this is incorrect. This is not how we pronounce it. And some student might correct, or that student themselves might correct it. Okay, so this is what you mean by repetition. So you repeat students' error in a different intonation to draw their attention, and student will correct themselves. Otherwise, you correct. Coded. So when I say coded, it means that you code your feedback. How? Can you think of some examples? So this is a question for you, and let me know in a comment. Coded, to code your feedback. Give me some examples. So this is all about feedback, corrective feedback. When students commit errors in classroom, I am sure that all teachers, practitioners, experienced, or even novice use some of these, but unconsciously. So this is a kind of bringing what is unconscious into conscious. So if you have any question or suggestion, let me know in the comments. See you in another episode with another lesson. Have a good time and goodbye. Don't forget, metalinguistic in writing and examples of coded feedback. Goodbye.